Hi everybody, welcome to School of Scarlet. Today I have another message for you. So today's message is sort of like a response to a comment. I get lots of comments and I want to say thank you to each and every one of you that comments, that leaves me a like, that emails me, that interacts with me in some way. Thank you so much for being part of School of Scarlet. And every so often I get a comment that, might be like a video response or might be something that really sticks out to me that I want to kind of talk to y'all about. So I got a comment yesterday and I'm not even really sure how the commenter meant it because I really wanted to, I did ask, what do you mean by this? But I don't think I got a response. So if you're that commenter, comment down below what you think of this response, what it was that you were implying by that comment. But I think I kind of get the idea. What intuitively came through for me was what I'm going to be talking about here in this video. So stay tuned to the very end. I'm going to be talking about how possibly you can be perceiving your calling as dangerous. And many people do because of what they begin to experience. So the commenter commented that this was dangerous. Now, this was under a video about kind of becoming the prophet that you were meant to become. It was a kind of a message for people that were experiencing kind of like a prophetic or an empath or an intuitive kind of awakening. So that's what that video was about. And the commenter just said that's dangerous. And so what intuitively came through for me was that possibly the commenter was experiencing or perceiving that their calling was dangerous. And I know, and I will share with you here in this talk a little bit about how that has arisen for me throughout the time as well, and how its perception is, different depending on what you're going through. So in the beginning stages of coming into your gift or whatever your calling happens to be, specifically if it is something along the lines of prophecy, of empath, of intuitive, something like that, working with people as a counselor, maybe even as a teacher, you're going to be tested. Now, you're going to be tested because how are you going to be a teacher? How are you going to be a counselor? How are you going to intuit or perceive things without having been gone through them or have an understanding of them? So you're going to be tested on the topics and subjects that you talk about or the things that you teach or counsel about. So just like a teacher gives a test at the end of a semester or, the end of a time period of whatever they're teaching, they're testing to see if you know that knowledge. Because if you know that knowledge, then they can move on and begin to teach you something else. But it is, the test is part of it. If you haven't passed the test, if you are not doing well, the teacher tests you on something and you're not doing well, you might have to go to remedial classes. You might have to be held back. And that's because you're not ready for the next step. So these tests are really to see, are you ready? Do you know what you're talking about? Do you know what you learned? Are you ready for that? Because in order to teach something, you must learn it. In a lot of ways that I used to teach as a teacher was to teach students whatever it happened to be, teach them that subject. And then at the end of the semester, there wouldn't just be a test. There would also be a point in time where they would go and teach someone else that skill, or teach someone else, or speak in front of the class and teach on that subject. Because essentially, the next step after you learn something and you pass that test is to teach it. And when you teach it, you never forget it. So that is what that is all about. So just the same like, what happens in school happens in life. If you have, been called or you have a desire to be a teacher, be a counselor, be an empath, be a prophet, whatever it happens to be, many different things. I'm just picking those things out because that video was speaking more along those lines. But you're going to be tested in those areas, and that's totally fine. So one of the things that you go through when you're being tested that can feel sort of dangerous to someone is the experiences you begin to have. So for one, you're going to have a lot more emotional deepening, meaning that you're going to be put in situations in your life that are going to cause you to provoke you even to have to really go deep in your emotions, to experience not just your emotions, but sometimes the emotions of others, to have understanding. Because without having that understanding of a certain thing, you really can't help or heal anyone. Not that anyone needs healing, but they do need, if you're going to be in the role of a healer or of a counselor of some kind, you need to have some sort of awareness of what someone could be going through, okay? So if you're going to be counseling someone on grief, most likely you're going to be tested to grieve over something. so that you know what that's like. If you're going to be counseling people with mental health issues, at some point you're going to be tested on, do you know what that is? And something will arise in your life. If you're going to be, giving words of prophecy or something like that, you're going to be tested on that as well. You're going to be tested on how those words can affect others. You're going to be tested in ways that you might be ridiculed, might be misunderstood, because the test is to see if you're strong, if you're willing to still stand straight and stand strong to the word of God, the word of spirit that's coming through. If you're not able to do that, you have not passed the test, and you will not be able to do this at this time. So the test is not like a fail and pass or fail test. If you do not really go forward, you're not able to handle something, what will end up happening is that you'll be taught in different ways. So you begin to see in your life that different things will begin to manifest themselves. You'll begin to see that you're put in situations that are sort of teaching you. So these challenges really are your teachers. And so it's not really something that you need to avoid. So when the commenter mentions that it could be dangerous, I'll tell you that it feels a bit dangerous at times. And sometimes you want to throw in the towel. You want to give up because you feel as if, it really is like, something is happening where you're being basically put through an initiation, put through like a schooling of some kind, and different things are coming up for you to experience. And people that work more, in religious settings, mental health settings even, you get tested in ways that are very, very deep, where you might experience something very supernatural. Because you're going to come across lots of people in those settings that have those experiences, and you're going to have to be able to counsel them to understand where they're coming from and understand what that is that they're seeing. And that's the only way really that you can actually help them, because you have to have an understanding of this. Otherwise, you'll just say that it wasn't true, or, you'll discredit some of their things, and you won't be able to help them in a way that can connect with them. So we have to learn to connect with people, having gone through these things in a human way, but at the same time, understanding the divine nature of things and how these things are really not as big as they seem. You'll be tested so much that at some point you will begin to realize the truth of everything and the power of God, how everything is really truly an illusion, how God is here within us all. So you're going to be eventually revealed a safe word. So I'm going to be talking about that here next before we close. So stay tuned to the very end to understand the safe word, because no matter how dangerous your situation becomes, or maybe you're going through things like, I had to go through a lot of different things. And so just sharing with you a little bit, very early on, I had to see very dark sides of humanity. I had been working in social work, and I had to see child abuse, domestic violence, horrible violence against women, having to go to the hospital over different things, just stories of generational curses, people from other countries that, in their countries, things that are not the norm here in the United States were the norm there, and people were being hurt. It wasn't all love and light. It was very, very dark. And I got to see, this underbelly of society that, oftentimes we don't talk about on these kind of spiritual channels. So I got to see all of that. And then later on, when I began to do more teaching and counseling, I began to have to experience some of these things for myself. And so it wasn't just now experiencing the stories of others. I had to go through it. And when I began to go through some of these things that are very dark, I began to see how there are times where you do feel out of control, where you do have to seek others, where you do have to find that safe word or that safe spot that we're going to be talking about. And that is your only way to get out. And so I had to go through those experiences to really understand the truth, to really understand the underlying nature of everything. And no matter how bad something gets, to really understand that safe word. So all of these things that happen, they're truly meant to build strength. So I want to kind of give you a metaphor. So we go to the gym, right, to build muscles. Some of us are going to the gym to build muscles, right? And in order to build muscles and really get bulked up, or you want to create like a lean body for yourself or something like that, it's not going to do that just by picking up a 5-pound weight every day. That's not going to do it. That's just your comfort level. That's what you can do, but that's not going to build any muscle. You're not going to see any results. You're not going to have much of anything because you don't have much resistance there. What you're going to need in order to build muscle, to get stronger, is resistance, and not just resistance. Oftentimes, if you're a bodybuilder, comment down below how it works. You do have to rip your muscles, literally rip your muscles, in order for them to regrow and to grow stronger. You have to continue to lift more and more weight. So if you get used to a 10-pound weight, next time you go in, you got to move up to a 15-pound weight or a 20-pound weight. And at some point, you're lifting a lot of weight, okay? You don't stay at any, like, one level. You don't stay lifting 10 pounds for the whole time and suddenly become like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It just doesn't happen. So the same thing happens with our spiritual and our psychological life, however you want to see it. We have to build resistance. We have to build endurance by moving up. And we don't call these things upon ourselves. We don't necessarily get into these situations ourselves. These things begin to happen to us. So that's maybe why this commenter commented, "This is dangerous." Because I can know for my own journey that there was times where I wanted to throw in the towel. I remember a time or two, talking to my husband and just really saying, I don't think I'm cut out for this, or I don't want to go through this anymore, because it seemed like every time I would go to help someone in certain areas of life, if I wasn't experienced in that for whatever reason, I was tested in a way where I had to go through that. And not just how the person was going through it, a lot of times in a much deeper, kind of more dismantling kind of way, where literally it takes you down to nothing. So I had to experience it very fully, and it just gets tiring. And you don't really want to do that. But as you do that, if you stay strong and you go through these things, you begin to recognize the truth. You begin to get so strong that literally there's nothing that can really take you down anymore. And you encounter people and you understand where they're coming from, and you're able to connect with them on different levels that are appropriate to them at the time. But essentially, whatever is happening in their lives or whatever is happening now in this present moment, it's truly an illusion, and it's not something that they can't overcome. So you oftentimes see, prophets and spiritual people and, stories of people, not just in the Bible, but in life. They go through a lot of trials. They go through a lot of tribulations, because that is how the strength and endurance is grown. And eventually how, like I say, you get dismantled to a place where you only recognize the truth of this reality, which is that all things are just God. So that is what it's like to go through something. It does feel sort of dangerous. You may want to throw in the towel, but I want to say, if you do feel the calling to do this, if this is what is arising for you, most likely you're not going to be able to deny it. And if you do, it's going to be very painful to deny this calling. And if you deny it, most likely you're going to go into another state of being. You're going to do things that are probably just going to allow you to be in survival state. Whereas if you continue on with your calling, you're going to grow and grow and grow, and you're going to experience the truth of reality where, yes, it was looking very dark, very, very dark, in these people's lives, in our own lives. But if you go through this whole initiation, you're going to recognize heaven on earth. You're going to recognize true joy, true bliss, the peace that withstands all understanding. You're going to truly experience that. And you can't experience it any other way. So if you're being called to this, you really can't escape it. If you try to escape it, you're going to be probably very unhappy, and you're going to have to do things to pacify yourself. You're going to have to pick up coping mechanisms to just get through the days and stuff like that. So I encourage you to don't give up, keep on, move forward. Yes, it seems like it's dangerous, but it's not dangerous. It's actually a teacher. These things that arise for you are teaching you something. The challenges are truly just teachers. So anchor yourself in truth. One of the things that I think that you can really do to help you stay strong in this time is if you do have a connection to spirit. Because the more that you go through these tribulations, the more that you recognize that all there is God. There's nothing else happening here. And it might sound very crazy to say and for y'all to understand if you have not gone through this, but truly you'll recognize that everything is God, and because of that, and it's all one kind of tied in with a nice bow realization, everything's an illusion. So all of these things that we're going through, it's almost like a video game. We're playing something that seems very real, this human aspect of things. But essentially, all there is God. And so you're safe. The safe word truly is that everything is God. There is nothing else happening here. We can play out this story and that story, and there's suffering here and there's suffering there. But essentially, all there is God. And when you feel like you're gonna give up, or when you feel like you don't understand anymore, you're very confused, or you're maybe going through one of these tribulations and you kind of feel like throwing in the towel, I would encourage you to just connect back with Spirit, the Spirit within you. Call upon God, even verbally or in mentally, however you want to do it, and align back with God. You're going to experience some peace there. And the more that you do this, the more that you cultivate this, you'll begin to realize the truth of this reality. And it's really not something that you can convey in words. It's not something that, I could really share with you and it really be understood in a lot of ways. So I use a lot of kind of verbal pointings in my videos to pointing to a lot of these things in metaphors and real life things, because it really can't be understood unless you go through it. But I want to tell you that you are safe here. It may seem dangerous, but you have a safety net. You have an eternal safety net that is never going to change. It's always going to be there. You are actually always, always safe. So that is what I wanted to share with you today. I hope that I conveyed it in a way that you can understand it. Like I mentioned, when you're going through these hard times, connect back with the Spirit within. The other things that you can do is, find yourself a support system, others that understand what you're going through. Someone who you can talk to about these things, because it can feel very alone when you're experiencing these sorts of things, and the average person is not, because not everybody is at the awareness that you're at. Not everybody is walking in their calling. Not everybody is, having these sorts of experiences, because not everybody is doing this. Not everybody is called to the calling that you're called to have. So find those people that are similar, that are called just like you are called, and that will provide you some support. It'll help you to not feel totally alone here and to continue to walk in your calling. So the last thing I wanted to share around the safe word is that the safe word, all there is God. It's several words, but you could just tie it down to God. And sometimes I don't like to use the word God because there's so many different beliefs, religions, and people want to divide God into many different things and say this is not God or this is not God, or they want to separate it all. But call it what you want, but there is one safe word. You could say it's creator, you could say it's God, you could say it's whatever you want to call it. Words are really nothing in the illusion that I'm talking about. Essentially what I'm talking about doesn't even care about words. So call it what you want to call it. But when you're experiencing illness, when you're experiencing like physical illness or pain, or you're experiencing mental illness, or you're experiencing poverty, or many of the things that people suffer with in life, think back to how Jesus handled those things. He didn't see that for those people. He already saw those people as whole and complete. He saw them healed. Maybe there was a person literally dying or blind, or something that you would say that there's no way that anyone can bring healing to this. Well, he didn't see it that way. And because he didn't see it that way, he saw through that illusion. He saw a complete and whole and healed person. And because of that, he was able to really manifest those miracles, bring that person back into the truth of who they are. Oftentimes we're connecting with things that are not true about us, and we're stuck there. So when you see through the illusion, you begin to see that this is already heaven on earth, and everything is already whole and complete. And even though we may not see it, or things may be appearing in different ways, doesn't mean that it's not so. So this may be a little bit of a confusing talk for some of you that are newer to my channel. If you've been on my channel for a long time, you probably connect with some of this stuff because I used to talk a lot more about the illusion before. But I want you to know, if you are feeling like your calling is dangerous, you have an eternal safety net there. And if you'd like to talk more about it or connect with me in some way, you can find my information in the description, and I will link some stuff down below that you can check out. I also have a course that I'm beginning January 25th, And so if you have been feeling like you are called to be in this course, go ahead and sign up now. There are some spots still available, and I would love to have you be part of this so that you can be part of a community that could be supportive to you in walking in your calling. If you're feeling like something is dangerous, if you're confused about something, this is a place to bring clarity, to help you along your path. So I encourage you to go ahead and sign up if this is calling you now. Thank you again so much for watching. If you're new here, I hope that you will subscribe. I hope that you will come back, and I will catch you on our next message. I love you all.